Hello and welcome back, and I'm running another video on the currency array indicator, and I've changed the format here a little bit just to introduce the concepts of marrying the indicator alongside the associated time charts, just to give you an indication of considering the array in the context of what is actually going on in terms of the price chart. And in particular here, I've isolated out the dollar. So I've got the dollar on 1 minute and on the 5 minute array to the left. And over on the right hand side, I've actually picked out the dollar CAD on the 1 minute at the top and on the 5 minute time horizon below. And the reason I've done that is because the dollar CAD is at the bottom of the array on both time frames, on the 1 minute and also the 5 minute. And it has also recently flagged up a potential oversold condition, certainly on one. So I'm just running this video to give you a heads up on how that translates into the price action as it develops and unfolds, and a trend reversal potentially begins to build from what we've seen so far, certainly on the faster time frames in terms of the dollar CAD at any rate. It's been relatively bearish over the last hour or so, as you can see on the chart there a little bit further. We've had that quite strong downtrend, and now we're looking at a potential opportunity for a uptrend to develop, and that's what we're waiting for now. So I've created that on this workspace to give you a sense of how this will actually look in terms of the time frames and the charts as that starts to develop. As I say, we haven't seen the full oversold signal yet on the dollar CAD, but certainly we've had an early indication that it is approaching that condition. You can see on the 1 minute and 5 minute time charts that the dollar CAD is just starting to tick up there. Had several little blue candles, and it looks as though we've got the second of an up candle developing there on the 5 minute time horizon as well. There's never any guarantee that when they get to an overbought or oversold condition that they're going to reverse instantly. And you can see there on the 1 minute array that the dollar CAD has actually jumped a spot off. That's no longer at the bottom of the array. It was in spot 28, and in fact, literally as I'm talking there, it's just oscillating between 26 and 27 at the boundary of the array down the bottom there on 1. And it's at the bottom on 5 at the moment. And as always with multiple time frames, what you expect to see is the initial transition occur first on your fastest time frame, and then that will gradually ripple through. If it is a true change in trend, it will ripple through onto the slower time frames and on down thereafter. We're still oscillating around at the extreme on the ranking ladder for the dollar CAD. We're in spot 27 on the 1 minute, and in fact spot 27 on the 5 minute as well. And the inclination of the trend line on the arrays is just simply indicative of the bearish sentiment that we've seen for the dollar CAD and reflected on the price chart. And in a way, you can think of the array as really reflecting the price action without actually looking at the chart. The angle of inclination, the steepness of the line, whether it's flat, whether it's very steep to the downside or the upside, it will instantly tell you very quickly how that trend is developing and with what degree of momentum. And of course, as in this scenario, where we're looking at an opportunity to take a trend, to take a trade to the opposite side of what has been the trend in the short term at any rate. See the pair on the 1 minute just trying to push higher there. You see the dollar CAD has actually moved up a little bit now. Off spot 27, we're now up to spot 25 on the ladder. You can see on the array, the angle on the array is flattening off a little bit for the dollar CAD on the 1 minute. And of course, ultimately what we're looking for is that line of the dollar CAD to swing all the way through from the bottom of the array and all the way ultimately up to the top, in which case it's moved from a very bearish trend into a very bullish trend. Never any guarantee that's going to do that all the time or in a very straightforward manner either. Indeed, it may not. But that's the ultimate objective, obviously, is to follow that trend as the array moves from the bottom up to the top, or indeed from the top down to the bottom. And in addition to considering the dollar CAD in isolation, if what we're looking for in this example is for buying of the dollar, then the corollary to that is that we're also looking for buying of the dollar in other pairs. So in that sense, what we're looking for perhaps on the euro dollar and the New Zealand dollar and the Aussie dollar up at the top there is for them to start swinging to the downside. In other words, the array moving from where it is at the moment, starting to rotate back towards the horizontal for those pairs, which will then signal that we have dollar buying coming into those currency pairs as well, as supporting our view, our trading ambition in terms of the dollar CAD. And now the dollar CAD is starting to exhibit some quite strong bullish sentiments. Certainly on the 1 minute, we've had a nice run. Where have we gone from the bottom there at 133.54? We're up to 133.75. So that's a very healthy 20 odd pips there so far. Certainly developing nicely on the 5 minute as well. And as you can see on the array, on the 1 minute, where are we now? We are moving, well, the color first of all has changed on the array itself. You can see that the dollar CAD, the angle of steepness is flattening all the time. It's reflecting the bullish sentiment that's coming into that particular pair. So we've also changed color from red we're now into a yellow color as we move up the ranking ladder. And in terms of where the pair is on the ranking ladder now, you can see it's ranking at spot 20 on the 1 minute. And in terms of the 5 minute, where are we? We're still down at 27. But that is the nature of what you would expect to see when you're trading on a multiple time horizon. You will see the movement first in the fast chart. There we go. It's jumped up a little bit more. The dollar CAD is now swinging up and into the horizontal area. And this is what the currencies are doing the whole time. They are sweeping back and forth from oversold to overbought and back to oversold again. And that is happening across the time horizons. And the analogy you can think of here is very much of the pendulum of a clock. It reaches an extreme, it then starts to gather momentum, it swings back, it then slows down at the other end of the travel, comes to a stop, then it starts to pick up momentum again and swings back. And it is that constant movement that you really are seeing on the array, and you're seeing it very well demonstrated here in terms of the dollar CAD. You can see there we're pretty much up to horizontal now. So we've come from a very bearish position where it was pointing very steeply downwards. We've now swung all the way up. We've gone through the horizontal and we're starting to swing up into a very bullish move on the 1 minute. And in terms of the ranking, where are we? We're now up to spot 17. So we've gone all the way from very bright red. We're now up into the yellow phase of price action. On the array, you can start to see it swinging higher. We've gone through the horizontal. We're now starting to build an angle upwards. And in addition to that, on the 5 minute, you can start to see the dollar CAD there gradually starting to swing up and away from the very sharp angle it had to the downside initially, and also start to move up the ranking ladder. We're still at spot 27 on the 5 minute time horizon, and that's perfectly normal. That's what you expect to see. And to put all this into context, on the 1 minute chart there, you've got a really nice move. Certainly an opportunity to take some pips out of the market there. And this is all down to your time horizon. What is it you're trying to do as a trader? Are you a scalping trader? Are you looking at this as a longer term, perhaps swing or trend trading opportunity, where you'd be looking at this over a much slower time horizon? Here we're just looking at it as an out and out scalping opportunity to get in, grab some pips, grab some profit, take it off the table, and then on to the next one. And you can see this is developing very nicely. On the 1 minute there, the dollar CAD is now well above the horizontal. We're up at spot 15. And you can also see there that the euro dollar and the New Zealand dollar that I referenced earlier on, they are starting to fall in the opposite direction, which is actually what you want to see, because they are reflecting dollar buying. So as the euro dollar and the New Zealand dollar are falling, so the dollar CAD is rising. So everything is falling into place very nicely here. And it's developing a very, very nice trend in real time. And you can see there on the 1 minute now on the ranking ladder, where are we? The dollar CAD has moved up to spot 12. So we've come all the way up from spot 28 to spot 12 in a relatively short space of time. But then that's what you'd expect on a 1 minute chart. And you would see that reflected over a longer period on a 5 minute, and so on and so forth, out to the slower time frames. Over on the 5 minute array, the dollar CAD has now climbed a spot. We've gone to spot 26. We've moved out of the very bright red. We've transitioned now very slowly into the orange. So we're gradually seeing that bullish sentiment dissipate on the slower time frame there. You can also see the Aussie dollar there on 1 on the array. That's falling nicely. So that's indicating buying of the dollar, which is what we want to see because we're in the dollar CAD. Moving to the dollar CAD itself, you can see it swung right up on the array now. And we're up into spot 9. And that's joined also with the dollar yen there. So we've got two pairs where the dollar is the primary currency. It comes first, in other words. So we're seeing strong, but you can see the yen there jumped as I was talking. A lot of dollar buying right now on this time horizon, and that's also reflected in the dollar CAD. So the dollar yen is pointing very sharply higher. And without even looking at the 1 minute chart, you would know that there was a strong trend developing on the dollar yen. And we're seeing that reflected also in the dollar CAD, which is following. And below it there, you can see also that the dollar Swiss has joined in the move. So we've got strong buying now in the dollar yen, the dollar CAD, and the dollar Swiss also, which is very nice to see. So thanks once again for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this particular video, which was just a very simple example of applying the currency array indicator in combination with your time-based charts and looking at it from the perspective of the overbought and oversold condition on the array. See you again soon. Thanks for watching, and bye for now.